Hi everyone, welcome to Rike Sports and our Formula One show. Delighted to have Ollie with me. Hi Ollie, how are you?
Good, mate. How you doing?
Good, thank you. So, as always, before we go preview the current race coming up, let's look back at the last race. It was really an amazing race. Really, Lewis Hamilton again proved what a great champion driver he is, coming from sixth place to win that race. And not only did he just win the race, but he sealed his seventh Drivers' World Championship, equaled Michael Schumacher's record. He couldn't have done it in a better way. Really, it was an astonishing drive, and hats off to him. What's your thoughts on that?
It's just amazing, isn't it? I mean, I watched back this podcast the previous podcast the other day, and we went, oh, Turkey Lewis, it's going to be a 1-2 Mercedes, and then Saturday happened. Well, free practice happened, and everyone realised, oh, this could be difficult. And Saturday happened, and I certainly thought, oh, we might have to wait till Bahrain, but unbelievable! What a drive! Like one of the top 10 drives of his career. I think that's got to be a fact, but yeah, just an amazing achievement. Most wins and now equal for most world titles in a single season. Just unbelievable. So yeah, really, really good.
Yeah, for sure. Like, just watching it, it was not looking good for him. Struggling with the tires, and like really, just in the end, he won it comfortably. He managed to. He's very good at this, where he can just adjust to the conditions better than the rest of them. We saw Max Verstappen; he was seeming to be doing quite well, but he didn't bite his time enough. Got a bit impatient. Went for that overtake around Perez, ended up losing the car, and that dropped him right back. So what we've got to say of Lewis is that he really makes minimal mistakes. It's very rare that you would find him make a mistake, and that is a phenomenal asset to have as a driver. It's not all about just how fast you are. It's about making the least mistakes. We saw his teammate Bottas made numerous mistakes, really poor drive from him. I ended up way down, and he was lapped by Hamilton as well. Yeah, what was your thoughts on the other drivers in the race?
I mean, let's start with Bottas. I think it's only fair. He spun 6 times, which is, I mean, look, I respect Bottas. I mean, I've made my opinions clear on him before. But if you want to win a world title, you cannot do that. I know he wasn't going to win it this season anyway, but he always, the last couple of seasons, has come in saying, Bottas 2.0, this is a new me. I'm going to challenge Lewis in different ways. And then we get the same outcome. But you can't spin 6 times. Let's make that very clear. You cannot do that, especially against someone who can adapt to any conditions, apparently, and also turn intermediate tyres into slicks and still win a race by 30 seconds on them. So, I don't know what more he can do. I don't think Bottas will win a title. I think people probably know that anyway, especially with the way the cars are now. But yeah, it was a brilliant race, I have to say. Again, I'm bigging myself up here. Again, I got another podium prediction correct. I got Ricciardo right for Imola. I got Perez right for this one. So I'm not 2 for 2, but I'm nearly sort of 2 for 2 on the third place / weird prediction. So hopefully I'll get another one. But yeah, what did you think of Seb, by the way? Seb on the podium, big one.
Yeah, great drive for him. Really, like it was good to see him up there again. He's had a poor season. It must be hard for him to motivate himself fully. Knowing one, he's not in the greatest car at the moment. 2, he's going to leave the team shortly as well. Also, the atmosphere would be difficult for all of them, these mechanics, the whole team. So, respect for him for that drive. We know he's a great driver. Looking back at some of the past races, and like he was so dominant in that Red Bull. Just if he's given the tools, I'm sure he'd be a great driver again, performing really well and getting some more podiums and race wins. Let's see how he goes in the Lotus. It was nice to see him up there again. As Lewis says, he wants to see these other great drivers competing against him. We've got Fernando coming back in next season as well. I don't think next season the cars will be good for them, the Lotus or the Renault, but hopefully the year after, the 2020 rules kick in, then, we're seeing all them champions fighting, and it's not just this procession of Hamilton just cruising. Like, it was just so easy for him. Like, even, like I say, Max disappointed me because that was a chance there for Max. The Red Bull seemed strong all weekend, had the pace. He messed up with a pole, like he should have really got the pole, I know it was difficult circumstances, but he had the fastest car there. He was looking like nailed on for it. But when it came down to the crunch moment, he missed out. You could see how disappointed he was as well. I saw after the qualifying, he seemed very down. I mean, in the race, you just have to be a bit more patient. This is what, it will come in experience. I think he's a great driver. I think he does sometimes, he does go all out a bit too much. You've got to bite your time. This is where Lewis is very good. Lewis picks the right moments and he applies the pressure as well in the right way. You've seen Lewis so many times apply pressure to the guy in front. It's not always about getting the overtake done by pulling off a move. It's about how you pressurize them and lead into the overtake. And Lewis is the best at that. So Max will improve in time, you know. So imagine how nice it would be if we've got Sebastian in the Lotus, we've got Fernando in the Renault, and we've got Max in the Red Bull, and then Lewis in the Mercedes. All four of them at the top, and it's close between the cars, and like, it'd be amazing. Like, we'll see a really nice World Championship. That would be great. What do you think?
That would be amazing to see. I mean, just touching on Max there again, you know, saying about Lewis and Valtteri, bring it back to these two. You know, you think of the Eiffel Grand Prix, Lewis is in second, and it's exactly what you said. Didn't go for the overtake, just stayed behind Bottas, and Bottas locked up, made a mistake. Lewis wins the race. You know, that's what Max needs to do. We've seen it a couple of times from him. You know, we saw it obviously with Ocon 2 years ago, but I think of people like Kimi Räikkönen. You know, Kimi is old school racer, obviously. He's 40, 41, but just the way he overtakes compared to someone like Verstappen is so brilliant. He's like, I don't want to say Max needs more respect, but Max needs to maybe think a bit more like, you know, yes, he has the better car, the faster car, but the other driver needs to be given that respect and that room. But yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to these rule changes. I have to say, I'm looking forward to next season. You know, even if it is another dominant one, but yeah, the idea of Alonso potentially in a fast Renault or an Alpine, as it will be at that point, and then Charles in a Ferrari, Carlos Sainz in a Ferrari that will hopefully be fast, and then Lewis in a Mercedes, maybe someone else beside Lewis, you know, maybe George Russell in another Mercedes we may see, then Max in a Red Bull, and then someone else maybe in that Red Bull seat as well next to him. We still don't know that yet. But 2021 could be a really good season. McLaren as well doing really well, and then yeah, Aston Martin as well. Like the budget cap's coming in, all these teams are, you know, getting closer and closer together. So it could be a really spicy season. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. God, we need it.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was saying Vettel in the Lotus. I meant Aston Martin.
I didn't even click. Old British car. It's the same thing.
I don't know why I clicked on my phone Lotus. But yeah, so it's really hopefully amazing. But just looking back now, again, so Lewis, I know we were talking a lot about Lewis, but I was looking back at his race wins, and I wanted to ask you, it's a difficult one. Obviously, he's had so many great drives. This last one was just one of them. Definitely just saying in the top 10. What would you say is your favorite win from him? Out of all these wins he's had, I know it's a difficult one to pick, but which one would you say is your favorite?
I mean, when you asked me this on WhatsApp, because we do a little bit of prep before these, very small amount of prep. You asked me this on WhatsApp, and I went on Wikipedia and I was sort of just looking at the results, and I picked out 3, 2 of which we picked the same, funnily enough. So I will let you get onto your one. But I nearly went for Hungary 2013, which, you know, like we discussed beforehand, he moved to Mercedes. People were questioning it because McLaren were a dominant force. And then, you know, that was his first win for Mercedes, and he needed that win to get the monkey off his back. But I've got to go for, rather fittingly, the duel in the desert. 2014, Bahrain, with Nico Rosberg. What a race. I mean, I can't think off the top of my head how many races have been just 2 drivers just going at each other. It was amazing attacking driving from both, amazing defensive driving from both, in a new era of car, a new era for, you know, dominant drivers. We'd had the Vettel era. Obviously, we had the Schumacher era, and this was the start of the Hamilton era. So, yeah, I've got to go for that. I mean, anyone interested in that race, F1 put up a little clip on Instagram today. So do check that out. It's a couple of minutes long, but it shows exactly what you need to know. So yeah, 2014, Duel in the Desert, definitely. What about you? I know what it is, but you need to tell the people.
As you said, first about the race you chose, I chose that as well. So we chose 2 each, and we both chose the same 2 each. So it shows that he has to be up there as the best couple that he's had. So no, going to that one, it was amazing to watch that. So the defensive skills he has, as we're saying, he's really good at overtaking. He's really good at not making mistakes, right? Under that pressure. So Rosberg had the advantage of, remember the way the tyres went back. On the final stint, Rosberg was on the softer compound, the faster one. So it was kind of looking at, and there was a safety car as well, so it closed the gap right out. So it was looking like a question of, when's Rosberg going to pass him? And I remember watching it thinking, oh, it's kind of going to be mission impossible for him, you know? And then somehow he kept hanging on, kept hanging on. And the laps were going by. And it's like Rosberg was trying everything he could, all the different ways of trying to make him make a mistake, get past him, wouldn't budge, you know? It just showed the class of him. So I've rated that as a really good drive. It's not, like I say, it's not always about how you go overtake or how fast you go ahead and like you go win by 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Sometimes it's just about your skill to be able to defend in a situation like that. He's done it in other races as well. Remember in Monaco, he had that one where they stuck him on the medium compound. He had to do like 60 laps or something combat. And he had Max right up against him on the faster tyre. He made the tyres last so long and got the race win. So he's so good. I know we sing his praises a lot, but he is so good. I don't know why people doubt how good he is. You
How
know?
could we not? How could we not sing his praises? You know, I completely forgot Monaco last year. That was an amazing race. But how can you not sing his praises? Like, you're exactly right. The way he makes those tires last, the way he drives, like people, people constantly, he's in the best car, he's in the best car. Yeah, but that because he's the best driver. Like, that's why Lionel Messi doesn't play for Colchester. He plays for Barcelona because he's the best player in the world. So he is so good. So yeah, everything you said is right.
Yeah,
Just
so
brilliant.
when we want to talk about how dominant he is, so another aspect of his driving, as we saw in the last race, he's really good in wet conditions. So the best illustration of that, and that's the race win I've gone for as my favorite, along with the Bahrain one, is Silverstone 2008. He absolutely dominated the field. It was an unbelievable drive. Like, really, it was a crazy race. You know, at the beginning, the incident with Raikkonen, and then after that, once Raikkonen tried with him, after that, nobody got near him. He ended up winning. He actually ended up lapping Raikkonen in the end. He lapped up to fourth place and he finished over a minute clear of the field. So, and that was in the early days of his career, 2008. It's only his second season, but he showed that he's already back then a master, especially in wet conditions. And that was like, we were saying, if you talk about all types of situations, whether it's defending, overtaking, managing the pace out front, managing your tires. Back then, there was like, obviously, it was competitive more. So he had a lot of competition. Ferrari were really strong back then. He wasn't even the world champion back then, so he was still only in his second season. So, new into the sport kind of still as well, but he just proved his class. He proved his class in his first season. Like, as we know, what he done against Alonso, so unlucky not to win the world championship. Like, literally, if he didn't have that incident in China, it was pretty likely he would have gone on to be the world champion in that year. So great driver, no doubt. It annoys me when people kind of say, oh, it's the car, this, that. He is the best of the era now and one of the greatest ever. Like I say, you can't compare eras, but definitely people should give him more respect than they do. I'm thinking now they're starting to give him more respect now. They're seeing that, he's continually performing. And what was really nice that I heard him say is that during the end of the last race is that he feels motivated because he mentioned kids and he wants to keep inspiring kids. So even though he's already at the top of the sport, he's not got too many more records that you can go for breaking, but he seems still motivated to continue for longer. And that's great for us to hear as fans. Not great for his opposition. But like I say, if the rule changes in 2020 have a desired effect, then the likes of Seb and Fernando and Max are able to challenge him in other cars, and we should see some great racing. But if you put them all in equal machinery, I think he would still come out on top
That
slightly.
would be interesting.
Slightly. Yeah, it'd be really interesting because
Yeah.
Fernando improved a lot as well. Like from that first year when he was against Hamilton, Fernando's got better as well. We saw what he done in the Ferrari. Like he put some good drivers, like put clear gaps to them. Like Raikkonen couldn't touch him. Raikkonen's a world champion. Massa
Look at
couldn't.
Massa.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
yeah, that was the original Hamilton Bottas to me. Was Alonso Massa
yeah,
destroyed it? Oh,
he did. So like Alonso is definitely, I think he's the closest to him of this era. I think. But Max definitely can get there. Needs a bit more experience. And then the other one is Vettel. Vettel, if you give him the right tools, as we said, I think he could also challenge Lewis as well. So yeah, a lot about Lewis there, and we're gonna now go on to this week's race. Again, it's gonna be all about Lewis in terms of our predictions. I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me. What's your thoughts on the coming race?
um, I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna say probably gonna be a Hamilton win again. I mean, I was looking at the winners of the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's Vettel has 4, and then it is, I think, Hamilton, Massa, Alonso, Schumacher, Button, and Rosberg. I think are the only other winners, but Hamilton and Vettel are the only live, like, current winners there at the moment. But I'm going to probably say Hamilton. And then I can see Bottas bouncing back, getting a strong second place, but it'll be boring to say Mercedes 1-2. So I'm going to say Hamilton, Verstappen, and then I'm going to put a Ferrari on the podium. I'm going to put Leclerc. I think it's going to be that. I think we're going to see 3 different constructors. I'm saying this and I'm going, that sounds ridiculous, but yeah, Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc. That's what I'm going for. But I think I'm saying it because I don't want it to be Mercedes 1-2. But yeah, what are you thinking? The same or something completely different?
Well, you know, for the time of year, so normally the Bahrain Grand Prix is earlier in the year. So I was having a look at the weather as we were discussing earlier. So around this time of year in that part of the world, it's their winter times as well. So the temperatures drop down a little bit, and also there can be a bit of rain. So we're looking at the forecast, it's saying there's maybe a little bit of rain for Saturday, but nothing for the race on Sunday. It would be nice to have seen some rain there, mix things up. We've not seen a wet Bahrain Grand Prix before. Hopefully there's another race there we know the week after, and there's a race coming up in the UAE. So hopefully we might get rain in one of these races, because let's say this time of year it could happen. Normally the UAE Grand Prix is at end of November, early December. This time it's like nearly middle of December, so we could see some rain. But as you say, if there's no rain and it's going to be not mixed up like the last race, I can only see a Mercedes win. And if I'm saying a Mercedes win, it means I can only see a Hamilton win, because I really can't see Bottas challenging him. I mean, Hamilton's got to have a really off day, and Bottas has got to be at his best. Otherwise, I can't see happening. But going to be boring. Going to go for Hamilton. I am quite boring with these. I'm going to go for Hamilton to win, Bottas second, and Verstappen third. I can't see past that. This circuit is about the engines a lot. We saw last year, I don't know if you remember last year's race, but Leclerc and Ferrari, who was doing really well. They had their souped up engines, powerful units they had in there. So they were cruising to the win, but then he had the engine problem, and Lewis ended up taking the win. But so there's no one else that's got a stronger engine than Mercedes at the moment. So there's no Ferrari.
It's just you saying Lewis took the win. It's just like, well, I mean, you could, who else would it have been?
Yeah, remember the start of last season, we were quite excited because Ferrari were showing like they were getting some poles and wins, and Leclerc was looking good. But yeah, there's none of that this season. Red Bull's engine's not up to the level, as we know, right? So Mercedes have everything in their favour. It would be a huge upset if we were not one of them to win. So yeah, going to be boring. So yeah, one other thing I wanted to ask you is, have you heard much about the contract situation with Lewis? It's still not signed.
No, still not signed. I think it's going to be signed. We all know that. I think the thing now is just how long. And I think 3 things: how long, what happens with Toto Wolff, and apparently one of the stipulations is, can Lewis work from home more, which is an interesting thing I've read recently. So I imagine he'll be on Zoom like the rest of us, and having virtual drinks with his colleagues soon enough. But yeah, apparently he wants to work from home more, which I think would involve sponsors and filming days coming to him rather than him going, all over the world essentially and doing all this, all that for Mercedes and their sponsors. So I can't see it not being signed by the last race. I think they're just finalising things. He'd be mad not to. Mercedes would be mad not to throw money at him, as would the sponsors. They'd be equally mad. So yeah, I think it's just wait and see. I don't necessarily think it's a game of chicken or anything. I think it's just wait and see. I imagine he's going to, I think, what is it? Over 130 million, I think they've said would be the deal size. So, a bit of pocket change would be nice. Lewis, if you're watching, please send some of that my way. That'd be really, really grateful. But yeah, so I think that'll be one to watch out. And of course, as well, this weekend or the race after Bahrain, at least, we'll be finding out the F2 champion, and then presumably the guys who will be in the seats at Haas and AlphaTauri. So that's also some contracts to keep an eye on. So I don't know if you've heard much about Haas. Have you got any thoughts on who they should go for?
I haven't heard. I think they should go for one of the upcoming drivers. I know that what happens a lot is that the bigger teams kind of push drivers onto them. So we know, Mercedes are well connected, Ferrari are well connected. They kind of have that influence. But let's see. I think they should try and push for younger drivers. As we were saying, the tried tested drivers, they've been given enough opportunities. But what I was going to ask you is the really tricky one now is with Red Bull. What's your thoughts on that one? Because Albion, we know he's not in Max's class. I know we were speaking about this last time, and you were saying to me you think Max is just that good. It's not that Albion's that poor. It's more that Max is that good. But what do you think Red Bull should do? Because Gasly's been performing really well. You know, what do you think about that situation?
I mean, AlphaTauri have said Gasly's staying there, as have Red Bull and Helmut Marko, which makes sense because they're trying to treat AlphaTauri like a sister team rather than sort of a B team, especially with the budget cap and all that coming in. But I would stick with Albon. I think, I mean, he's a damn good driver. We know this. He is a good driver. But I think Max is just dragging that car so much further than it should be going. A bit like Charles at the moment in the Ferrari. He's dragging it that much further. And people don't seem to see the parallels between Max and Albon and Leclerc and Vettel. There's very similar things there. The cars are set up for their number one drivers, you know, which is Leclerc and Verstappen. And the number twos are struggling to adapt. And it's very clear to see. And, you know, you think about actually Vettel and Albon both got a third place podium this year. Both had, you know, mixed bag of results, mixed bag in qualifying while their teammates have been flying. So I would stick with him. You know, especially with the big rumour that AlphaTauri are going to go with Yuki Tsunoda. So I don't see them getting anyone else. I feel bad for Sergio Perez. He should be in a top car. I mean, you know, if they were going to go for anyone else, it should be him. But
that was the rumor as well. I mentioned about but it wasn't so much Gasly recently. It's been more about Perez. He seems like a really good driver to be not finding a race seat. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? But it's the issue we come down to again and again and again. We need more teams in Formula One. You know, we were spoiled in 2012 when we had the likes of Mauritia, Caterham, and HRT. I know all these teams were minnows and they changed their names every season, it felt like. But at least then the younger drivers could be there and they could be tested out rather than being thrown into a big seat a bit more. But he said he's happy to take a year out. I think a team would be mad not to go for him after a year break, you know. So, yeah, we've just got to wait and see, really. I mean, it'd be nice to get more teams in, but, you know, after next season, I don't see Raikkonen sticking around. After 2021, I don't see Alonso sticking around. Apparently, Renault have already got their eyes on Gasly for 2022, sorry. So, you know, I think if Perez waits it out, he'll be in a seat.
You think Alonso won't be around for too many seasons?
I think 2 years. You know, he'll be 42, won't he? 40, coming up to 43.
Yeah.
You know, I can't see him staying. He'll be, with all due respect, an older bloke. Like, you look at Lando. Lando's 20 years old, 21 years old, and all these kids who are coming up. Mick Schumacher, you know, Callum Ilott, Robert Schwartzman's 18, and they've, you know, been saying that he could have got a seat next season, but it looks like he'll stay in F2. So I don't see Fernando staying for too long. I think he'll try and push Renault as far as possible. But yeah, I think it will be just a case of, look, bit like what McLaren did with Button. Bit like, you know, we'd love you to be an ambassador in that sense, but we need to look bit more at the future. So yeah, that's my thoughts with Fernando. But we've just got to wait and see. I think it's pretty much locked on. Albon will be with Red Bull. They would have announced someone else by now, otherwise, I think. So yeah.
So just talk about young drivers. One thing I wanted to finish with is that I was watching a clip. It was on actually Lewis Hamilton's Instagram. He was showing his GP2 race, the one in Turkey, because you know they're racing in Turkey. Did you get to see that?
Yeah, I did. Oh my goodness, what a race!
What a race! I hadn't seen that before, so wow. When I was watching the clip, and then I looked at it and more extended highlights of it, and the passes he was doing, and he made a little mistakes to spin and drop down, you know, and then he came back storming through the field into second. He was like, from back then, you know, he had this natural flair and ability, you know. Did you get to see much of it?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Like, I'd heard of it, but I'd never seen it before. So thankfully, I managed to find a clip of it. But I mean, the caliber in that field at the time, you know, was Piquet, Grassi, Glock, quite big names. You know, obviously Glock well linked with Hamilton and will forever be well linked with Hamilton. But you know, there were some really big names, and there's a really great interview with Will Buxton he has about it, and saying like the struggle he was having in the lead up to that race. You know, he'd had some crap results, and Piquet had an amazing run of form. But, you know, you just watch that race and I just couldn't believe it. Like, for a young driver like that as well, in a hugely pressurised situation, not only from everybody else in his team, but himself. I think that's what I gained most from that. You know, he wasn't going to stay in GP2 another season. He was going to be in Formula One. So, yeah, I think if I'd watched that then and then seen him in 2007, I wouldn't have been as surprised as I was, like many other people, to see a rookie driver nearly win the world title in his first season. And yeah, just if anybody watching this, go and watch that race, or at least watch the highlights of it. It is unbelievable. Possibly his greatest ever race. I'll put that out there. Maybe his greatest ever race is a GP2 second place race from 2006. But yeah, definitely.
In terms of importance, it's definitely up in the top 10, top 5, top 10 for sure. It's really important. As you said, that helped to secure him the seat in Formula One the following year. And then the rest is history, as they say. He's now the 7 times world champion, and very likely next year he's going to go on to make it 8 times world champion. So yeah, amazing. Like I say, we talk a lot about him, but it is because he's so good. And we're ending this show talking about him as well. Probably next week when we're reviewing this weekend's race, we'll be talking about another race win for him as well. Okay, so that's all for us. Thanks, Ollie, for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great. And for all my viewers, please remember to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you. Bye.